Testing. Hello. 1 great Earth. Currently have an article pulled up from Ars Technica. Get a little closer to my microphone. Cats suffer H5N1 brain infections, blindness, death after drinking raw milk. On March 16th, cows on a dairy farm began showing symptoms of a mysterious illness now known to be H5N1 bird flu. Their symptoms were nondescript, but their milk production dramatically dropped and turned thick and creamy yellow. The next day, cats on the farm that had consumed some of the raw milk from the sick cows also became ill. While the cows would go on to largely recover, the cats weren't so lucky. They developed depressed mental states, stiff body movements, loss of coordination, circling, copious discharge from their eyes and noses, and blindness. By March 20th, over half of the farm's 24 cats died from the flu. This is a potentially developing and evolving situation regarding this is 34 herds in 9 states: Texas, Kansas, Michigan, New Mexico, Idaho, Ohio, South Dakota, North Carolina, and Colorado. There's one thing about prion disease is that it can't be fucked with. You see, you can dribble napalm all over the area where the cheap beef was being raised. You can burn it to the ground, and you can move inches of the soil from one area to another. You're never getting that land back. And we're running out of land for cheap beef. It's because the prion disease doesn't go away. There's no, well, next season. No. So these areas that are contaminated with H5N1 should be held a very high regard, because just by walking around and breathing in the molecules from the milk as well could be harmful to humans. But it's the amount is the virus load as well as they're getting. The cows are squirting milk and the cats are lapping it up. The cats are getting an ultra concentrated dose of H5N1. The early outbreak data from the Texas farm suggests that the virus is getting better and better at jumping to mammals, and data from elsewhere shows the virus is spreading wildly in its new host. H5N1, polar bears, penguins, all types of birds, mammals, cats, large and small. It is everywhere. This is concern grows, as is another article from Ars Technica. Concern grows as bird flu spreads further in U.S. cows, 32 herds in over 8 states. Something bad boiling around here. Bottom trawling emissions. Scientists uncover new marine source of carbon emissions into atmosphere, finding bottom trawling contributes to global warming. Now, as I remember from NOAA, it takes 100 years for particles from the top of the ocean to make its way down all the way to the bottom of the ocean. It takes 100 years. And then in an instance, we're going to kick all that up back up into the air. No, this should be clear cut. We need to stop doing this as a species. We are absolutely destroying the planet. We're destroying so much vibrant beauty underneath the water, and even just terrifying creatures. It doesn't matter. It's all the same. It's all life. And we take these massive, huge, that are measured in the jumbo jets, and we take these giant nets and we lay it on the ground, on the ocean floor, and then we move it. Catching fish? Like, what good could this possibly do? Besides destroying coral reefs, destroying areas that are ripe with hazards. When I say hazards, I don't just mean marine life, okay? There's a lot of fucked up shit down in the ocean. And we're going to find out some of it right now. Because right now we're talking about bottom trawling. But what is one thing about bottom trawling that scares the ever-loving shit out of me compared to anything else that you could possibly do in the ocean? Chemical weapons disposal. Mustard gas, sarin rockets, all that shit that's just on the bottom of the ocean that's just biding its time. Because all it ever actually needs is time. It doesn't need to do anything else besides wait to create these plumes of disease and plague and just monstrous insanity that would arise, that would contaminate and infect all known life on this planet. Because you start having these molecules, mustard gas, sarin, you start having this show up in the rain cycle. You definitely say that a lot of these containers might be leaking, or the ships that they were scuttled. Doesn't fucking matter. What matters is while you're bottom trawling, you're releasing a lot of very fucked up shit. Now let's take a look at this. Now, I've been away for, I think, a couple of weeks. I was in some pretty rough shape. I'm very ADHD, OCD, and it's not always, even upon reflection, it's not what I'm preoccupied that's causing it. Is what isn't preoccupied. It's like what I'm trying to, interrupting thoughts come and go. But the last couple of weeks they've been especially bad, so I'd like to say thank you to the people that checked in. Now, it might have been an abrupt stop to my channel, but I really do appreciate people like Hard to the Core Events checking in to see if I'm okay. That meant a lot to me. Thank you. And having struggled last year with mental illness, and this gets worse with age for me. So I was in rough shape for a couple of weeks, and I didn't know if I was going to be back. But I find myself too much spending time reading articles, wanting to share, as is primitive, it's primal. I want to share what I'm looking at because I think connections can be made. Bottom trawling is a previously unaccounted for source of atmospheric carbon emissions, scientists reveal in a study published today in Frontiers in Marine Science. As the world scrambles to slash emissions caused by fossil fuels, deforestation, and other sources, the study finds bottom trawling, the act of dragging a heavy fishing net across the ocean floor and resuspending some of the carbon in the seafloor sediment, to be a significant source of atmospheric carbon pollution. A previous study found that part of the disturbed sediment carbon turns into carbon dioxide underwater. Today's study finds that 55 to 60% of the carbon dioxide produced underwater by bottom trawling will make it into the atmosphere within 9 fucking years. The amount of carbon released by bottom trawling into the atmosphere each year is estimated to double the annual emissions from fuel combustion of the entire global fishing fleet. About 4 million vessels. I'm going to read that again because that is the amount of carbon released by bottom trawling into the atmosphere each year is estimated to double the annual emissions from fuel combustion of the entire global fishing fleet, about 4 million vessels. This is insane. If we want to put a really big notch in our belt, or not notch in the belt, feather in the cap, I think that's more fitting, or we want to reverse course, well, let's stop bottom trawling as a first, because it's more aggressive and it's more flattening and changing. And the fact that it isn't being hooked on anything, or it's not as simple as just dropping a net down and having it go over. I mean, you're destroying, you're killing. It's getting sharks, all kinds of rare animals caught up in these giant, massive nets. And the nets don't give. This is absolutely monstrous. And the fact that, I'll read this one more. Okay, we have long known that dragging heavy fishing nets, some as large as 10 747 jets across the ocean floor, destroy sea life and habitats. This is really fucked up right now. So we know that every year bottom trawling contributes to double the amount of annual emissions from fuel combustion of the entire global fishing fleet. This is psychotic. This should be a no-brainer that we have to have a complete moratorium on bottom trawling all across the planet forever. There's nothing scientific about it. You're taking animals off the ocean floor and bringing them up. The pressure alone is going to kill them, pressure change. You're not seeing species of animals that look the same because of the rapid pressure increase as they go from bottom of the sea, bottom of the ocean to the surface. Is very damaging, and you'll get a lot of what looks like blobs, but they're not fucking blobs. Because the pressure changed so much, so rapidly, destroyed and distorted their bodies. So when you see videos of people finding all these strange marine animals and creatures are pulling up off these huge nets, which I've seen before but I can't find right now, they look distorted, and that's why. It's because they're being pulled up from completely different pressure. Even if they throw these fish back in, even if they throw all these animals back into the water, they're not going to sink back to the ocean floor. They're fucking dead. That's it for them. You don't come back from pressure change like that. These, animals, they are on the bottom of the ocean, and then you pull them up, and what happens is that they fucking have their eyes bulge out of their head. Their brains explode out of their heads. It's terrifying. But these numbers are absolutely incredible. Every year, bottom trawling doubles the annual emissions from fuel combustion of the entire global fishing fleet, about 4 million vessels. So if we want to take about 4 million ships off the ocean right now, we just stop bottom trawling. We just completely ban it as a practice because it has shown to be nothing but problematic and controversial. Only recently, we have discovered that bottom trawling also unleashes plumes of carbon, which otherwise would be safely stored for millennia in the ocean floor. Our study is the very first to show that over half the carbon released by bottom trawling eventually escapes into the atmosphere as carbon dioxide over the span of about 10 years, contributing to global warming. Much like destroying forests, scraping up the seafloor causes irreparable harm to the climate, society, and wildlife. Our hubris as animal species, we don't understand that these creatures under the ocean, hundreds of years old in age, especially clams, mussels, hundreds of years old, green sharks, hundreds of years old. We know animals in the ocean are hundreds of years old, and they can just continue living and existing. But this, with bottom trawling, you're not specifying anything. Even though that you're going through what's coming out, it's not looking like anything you've seen before because the pressure change distorts it. Now there's also the other calamity that's waiting us, and that's this right here, this map. All these symbols of radioactive waste disposal are dump sites. Chemical weapon, munition dump sites, mustard gas, sarin rockets, you name it. So let's go here. This is 250 miles away from South Carolina or Florida. This dump site is from 1970. This dump site is located 250 miles east of Cape Kennedy. A large quantity of weapons were loaded on the ship called LeBaron Russell Briggs, which was then scuttled at this location on 18th of August, 1970. This event is the last known occasion of the U.S. dumping chemical agents in the sea and was conducted as part of Operation Chase. Cut holes and sink them. The dumped munitions originated from stores at the Military Ocean Terminal in Sunny Point, North Carolina. Munitions known to have been disposed of here included 416 volts containing 30 rockets each, 1 volt containing 3 rockets and 3 projectiles, and 1 volt containing 25 rockets and a single VX landmine. Total weight of weapons agents disposed were 71 tons of sarin, 10.5 pounds of VX inside a landmine, 677 tons of mustard gas, and 6,490 tons of Lewisite. The wreckage was located, photographed, and sampled in 1971, 72, 73, 74, and 75. When's the last time this has been looked at? When's the last time samples were taken? This is absolutely madness to think that bottom trawling outside of the South Atlantic or the Indian Ocean, and even then, you're hitting a lot of things that aren't marine life. You're hitting old ships. You're hitting old military. These are big reasons why we shouldn't be blindly trawling like we are. It's doubling every year, equivalent to 4 million vessels on the ocean. If we cut out bottom trawling, it saves future generations having to worry about the global warming that catches up as a result of bottom trawling. They say that it's about 9 to 10 years for a cycle to enter from being kicked up on the ocean floor to being in the atmosphere, heating up. So it's not good. Probably the worst. The sins of our fathers coming back to ruin the lives and generations after them. This is pretty horrific. I don't know if anything can be done, because I'm sure some of these objects that are containing these weapons aren't in the best shape after over 3 decades, 4 decades sitting on the bottom of the ocean floor. And with sea current changes, with ocean temperature changes, it can cause a lot of these containers to open, to leak. And that's what we're afraid of the most. We're afraid of these horrific acts of violence that these weapons promised. We overproduced it to the point that we didn't know what to do with it any longer. It's straight poison. Any kind of pesticide, fungicide, herbicide, it's all straight poison. Even if it's branded and marketed towards a pest, parasite, it doesn't work like that. We've been lied to too much. Now what the fuck? Now we have to worry about bottom trawling ship liners that Get a goddamn container of sarin rockets. But that plume would be really great for the environment and the atmosphere. And until bottom trawling is banned, the science is pretty clear about it. It's some of the worst shit you can do. Oh well. So in the middle of the North Atlantic Ocean here, 24 ships dumped 137,000 tons of chemical weapons, 17,000 tons of which were captured German stockpiles of tabun, sarin, phosphine, tear, and mustard gas. These dangers, these high-risk hazards, you wouldn't even know if you hit it, and it would take years for it to form in the atmosphere in a way that we know it, understand it, that would affect us. So all these chemical weapons and leaking that are damaged, that are open, are leaking into the environment, are eventually finding their way into the atmosphere, causing sickness, causing death, causing birds to die, fish to die, mass fish to die. And we just don't see it coming. This is hardly the case. I mean, just in this map alone, on both sides of the coast, you drop an anchor and hit just the wrong area, you're going to drop it on a bunch of rockets. You just dump them into the ocean. The bottom trawling has rockets. Sorry about that audio if you heard that. I'll read one more. Let's go to... I'm not going to find one bigger than that one. Okay, I think that's all I have for today. I thank you for joining me. Thank you for comments. I am going to call this stream here. I haven't been streaming in a little while because I've been in rough shape. ADHD and OCD gets worse with age. It just feels like I'm just trying to always fight back, fight it away, instead of trying to fight for something. So it becomes a nuisance. But it's the tremendous amounts of pressure that I get into, that I feel, is a physical manifestation, is pain of from OCD. It's not just the thoughts that just break my concentration. In my 20s, I mean, I would be able to walk from one room to the other room, completely forget what I was doing. I would look away for just 5 seconds and completely forget. Kiss a girl. Do something. Walk away, completely forget. It's happened several times in my life, and it's always haunting. Not until my 30s, until I got help. Has that really changed a whole lot? It wasn't until my 30s that I could think. Hard to put it in words. It's just, I was working 2 to 3 jobs at a time, just grinding. Now I'm too worried about finding full-time work again. Last worked for county road commission, filling potholes out on the streets, causing trouble in traffic. See, it's ADHD, OCD. I might be able to see the bigger picture, but it doesn't, it's not easy for me to do these things. So when I am streaming, it is a happy time, even though that what I cover typically won't be the happiest material. But that's, I have to do this for me and the stuff that I would like to see from channels that I look at. And a lot of this trying to find this complex amount of disaster unfolding in front of us. This danger from the murky depths of the oceans, and the seas, and the rivers, and the gulfs. We have weapons that are of great destruction sitting at the bottom of the ocean. It is no wonder Greece became the first European country to ban bottom trawling in marine parks by 2030. Not good enough. We have to ban bottom trawling completely. It's the first step because they're the first country to do it. But it's still, it's not enough. It's terrifying. In the areas, especially around Europe, it says Indian and South Atlantic Ocean, but there are a lot of unmarked areas. There's more than this. I know there's more than here. I have a PDF. I had a PDF. Is this it? So let's see here. Let me try to share this window. This is a PDF of ocean dumping disposal of chemical weapons. This is a FOIA document. Congressional Research Service prepared for members and committees of Congress. The U.S. Armed Forces disposed of chemical weapons in the ocean from World War I from 1970. At the time, it was thought of the vastness of the ocean waters would absorb chemical agents that may leak from these weapons. Stop right there. Let's see, I'm locating some. You have here the table of contents, introduction to, let's see, what page is the locations on? And right here. World War II, World War II, World War II. Unknown. 36 M47A 200-pound mustard bombs and approximately 15,000 unspecified bombs. Let's go to this here. Pacific Ocean off Hawaii, originating from Waini, Hawaii. Wa'ani. 20 M79 1,000-pound hydrogen cyanide bombs. 1,100 M79 1,000-pound cyanogen chloride bombs. That sounds nasty as hell. 125 M78 500-pound cyanogen chloride bombs. 14,956 M70 114-pound mustard bomb. 30,917 4.2-inch mortar mustard shell. You've seen a pattern with mustard gas. Didn't know what else to do. Just dumped into the ocean. We dumped the weapons leaking directly into the ocean. Tossed it over the side of the ship. This is another June 18th, 1962, Atlantic Ocean, originating from Edgewood Arsenal, Maryland. 378 105mm mustard projectiles, 341 155mm mustard projectiles, 1 ton container of lewisite, Jesus, 20 drums of cyanide, 5,252 white phosphorus munitions, non-chemical weapons materials, 500,000 pounds of radiological waste. And it continues. August 6th to 7th, 1964, Atlantic Ocean. Near 1960 and 1962, sites noted above, originating from Edgewood Arsenal, Maryland. 456 one-ton containers of riot control agent, 1,775mm mustard projectiles, 74 one-ton containers of mustard agent, 10 M78 500-pound cyanogen chloride bombs, non-chemical weapons materials, 855-gallon drums of radiological waste. Some of the worst shit. And we just dump it in the ocean because we think the ocean is so fucking big that there's no way that people are going to know that there's fucking 15,000 sarin rockets just sitting in a vault as concrete container. It's just sitting there waiting, biding its time. Because it doesn't need anything else besides time as it ages. It can only get worse. It just continues, and like, these are some very massive dumpings of chemical weapons into the ocean. I mean, I don't have... It shows you how the bottom feeders aren't really the bottom feeders, is they power the fucking world in food. Everything eats it and gets sick and dies. We eat that and get sick and die. This is not difficult science to grasp. Things that eat things that are smaller, that make you sick, will continue to make you sick. Because if you are eating only poison, which everything in the ocean probably is, if anything is... Like, is anything still alive on the ocean floor? Like, is there life teeming someplace in the ocean floor, deep on the ocean floor, not just off the coast of Australia? Is there anything fucking left on the planet beneath the seas, beneath the oceans? Or is it all just some terrible secret, just this awful dumping ground that just completely destroyed the marine life that we knew? Deep sea prawn, cod. Yeah, this is... Main components of the pelagic food web in the Barents Sea. Phytoplankton production, April to September. Well, if there is no plankton, when does the plankton die? What happens if that happens? Well, we would lose some of the largest animals on the planet. We would lose whales, we would lose all kinds of fish that we depend on, that we harvest, that aren't just swimming around. Dense krill layers. Octopus, like this is deep sea prawns. And you remember, it takes 100 years for particles on top of the ocean, on the surface. It takes 100 years for that to descend to the bottom of the ocean floor. And then we take a giant net and we go over the whole fucking area of the Indian or Pacific Ocean or the Atlantic Ocean, and we say this is doing something that we need to be done. We take in this huge ass fucking net, just reeling it in, while we're also looking at everything that you're taking off the assembly line. Even if you think, okay, well, we're not going to eat that, we're not going to need that, I don't know what creature that is, and you toss it over, it's already screwed. It's already dead. Pressure change, there's no pressure. That's why whenever you see these deep sea ROVs, they're not collecting a ton of marine life, because by the time it gets up to the surface, the pressure change will destroy it. So there is no reason anymore to be deep sea trawling at all, completely. It ruins the face of the ocean. It destroys habitats. It will destroy a whole shark nursery. Did you know sharks have nurseries? Did you know orangutan also can teach each other shit? We are so fucking dumb. We think that we're so unique because we create things out of steel and metal, which is how fucking bad it's gotten, is that the world is now threatened by these dump sites of munitions, chemical weapons. Yeah, it's like commercial fisheries. The commercial fishery is limited to the Kara Sea because of the small biomass of fish. The largest catch is polar cod by trawl. Like, this is just fucking crazy. It wrecks the entire temperature of salinity. These large circles are no longer circles. Like, you can't stop this. Tabun, sarin, mustard gas, Lewis site. Molecular weight, chemical structure, that's interesting. It's pretty terrifying, just how stupid as a species we've become. We forget that we're a species. We forget that this planet is not our planet. We are not this world. yet we're trying to make it bend. It will not. What will happen is a horrible catastrophe of climate shifting. Or doesn't even need to be climate change anymore. It can just be old, like hundreds of thousands of weapons dumped at sea when the oceans heat up and eats away at that metal, eats away at the containers, concrete containers. Well, what are we going to do? We can't. It's too late. So we just didn't wait. Our cruise liner is in danger. There's a lot of shit that goes along with being ethical. And there's no ethical bone in the body of anybody on the fucking planet. Don't ever believe it. Because you show somebody this, and their first instinct isn't to go like, what the fuck? We just dumped all that shit in the ocean? Too much. A lot of people want to ignore this, but this is going to be the next generation, or even my generation, that has to fucking deal with this. It is close to home, all these areas. I've been to so much of this country, and to think that just a few miles off are hundreds of bombs that are sarin or mustard. Some really terrifying shit buried itself into the ocean floor as it crashes. But without being able to look at these areas and confirm that, okay, we found the dump site and all of it is accounted for. That's never going to happen. You're never going to be able to account for even 90% of what you dumped because it moves. In 4 years, this shit probably moved over many hundreds of miles. Especially if it's a square container rolling around. I am much so worried about the future of humanity because we make the ocean sick. That's it. That's end game. And now we have to end bottom trawling before it's too late. Because is it worth it just for some extra fucking cod to hit a cache of weapons that has been under the ocean for years, decades? The next generation is going to have to worry about this because the world is heating up, the oceans are heating up, oceans heating away, eat away at these dump sites. This situation can only deteriorate. That's it. And all of the bombs that were confiscated from Nazi Germany dumped off throughout the world as well. The evil that men do is not even known for a generation. It takes time to understand the state of the world that was in. You look at all these dump sites. Let's take another one that's in... let's see. This is a United States and Nazi Germany, 1946. Dumping took place in the area from 1946 to 1955. Between March 1st and March 7th, 1946. 207 tons of H projectiles originating from New Orleans port of entry, Braithwaite, Louisiana, were dumped at unknown depth. On March 10th, 1946, an unknown number of mustard gas-filled bombs were shipped out of New Orleans on the U.S. Akuton and dumped at an unknown depth. In May 1946, 3 German Phosgene bombs from Nope were dumped. On July 13th, 1946, 3,500 kilogram and three 250 kilogram German bombs, all filled with mustard agent, were dumped in the Gulf. Unknown depths. And it's not always a guarantee that it will go down to where that we're going to say the dump site is located. Between like things coming down, not exactly hitting the mark, you know. But shit like this, like, you take a look, we had to worry about Nazi Germany and Russia, we had to worry about communism. This lives longer than communism. This lives longer than any economic or model, or this is disturbing to say the least. And people younger than me finding this out, I can't imagine their shock and dismay, because it's a huge disillusionment that, like, oh yeah, we made a war and there was a whole war and we came out of unscathed, right? No. I wouldn't want to live anywhere on the eastern seaboard. It is a ticking clock. And it's not getting any fresher. It's only going to deteriorate more, especially as the water warms up, and especially as we kick up a lot more particulates. If these bottom trawling ships hit the ground and kick up hundreds of tons, thousands of tons of mustard gas and other contaminated soil, is going to kill somebody. It's going to kill a lot of people. They're just sitting there waiting. This isn't even everything either. There's decades of research, of studies, but seeing these up for yourself up close is something that needs to be done on a greater scale. There needs to be monitoring on some of these sites to make sure that they're in still condition. Otherwise, that we have to check the water, check it with samples to see just how contaminated and fucked up it is. The whole eastern seaboard. And as they dumped further out and further out, we would scuttle an entire ship containing that was just full of ammunition. Disturbing. Alright, I think that is all the time I have for tonight. I thank you for joining me here. Thank you for listening to me, and I hope I introduced a new concept into somebody's mind tonight, especially regarding these dump sites that are just extremely hazardous waste. Some of the worst shit produced by man. And I'm not even looking at Agent Orange, Agent Purple, Agent Yellow, all that. All that stuff is a different story, but a lot of it was dumped as well. Okay, if you haven't already, I'd appreciate it if you like the stream, subscribe to the channel. Helps keep me motivated. I want to be back to being streaming, because I tell you, the last couple of weeks were rough, pretty rough, but I feel good. I'm feeling good as I ever have before, so making another go of it, pulling out interesting articles in science and trying to make sense of it in this dangerous world that we're now faced with. All right. Thank you. Please take care.